So I'm currently standing in our new passive solar greenhouse. It's still not complete. I've been really busy on other clients' projects this year, but it's getting close. And we could talk a little bit about some of the things that have to be completed here in this video. But the main focus of the video is going to be my 5 favorite things that I like about passive solar greenhouses. So number one, I really enjoy the sanctuary that it creates in this environment. We have a really short growing season, like 100 frost-free days. And I will admit that by the end of a growing season, especially with a greenhouse, I am kind of tired of growing. But 100 days is just not enough to tire me out from growing. So this gives us about an extra season on each side. So we get an earlier start, and then we get a late finish as well. And so theoretically speaking, this greenhouse, according to the thermodynamic model that I've done on it, and we're going to see if this proves out to be true, should not go below 0 until I think January 15th is what the model suggests, which is pretty amazing because in December and in January, we're usually reaching minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is the same in Fahrenheit. That's when they become friends. Minus 40 Fahrenheit is minus 40 Celsius. So that's kind of how cold it gets here. And the fact that a structure like this can stay above 0 till that point in the season tells you how long of a growing season we can get. Now, I'm not going to claim that we'll be growing tomatoes on January 15th, but if our tomato season was to go, for example, from, I don't know, beginning of April till the beginning of November, that's a really long season. We were actually pretty late getting our tomatoes in this year just because we were still building the raised beds and a bunch of other components in here. And so we were kind of late starting the greenhouse this year, but next year we're going to be on it. So having that long growing season, and I think I was saying sanctuary is really important for us. So we spend a lot of time out in our greenhouse. You know, every day we're out here for a little bit of time trying to manage the plants. And it really is rejuvenating. Like we do a lot of computer work as well, but having this place to go to be able to manage these plants outside of the conventional 100-day growing season is really awesome. Number 2, as you guys know, I'm an engineer and I love energy. And I love the intersection between energy and plants. And so I've spent a lot of time designing this solar wall right here. And so this wall is black for a reason. It picks up solar energy. It's perforated for a reason so that we can pull air through it. And this, as the air moves through these little holes here, it picks up that energy. And then the duct up above is where all that energy gets funneled, essentially. And then it goes through a manifold and series of pipes underneath. And this is the secret sauce, so to speak, that allows us to keep this greenhouse above 0 without any additional fossil fuel energy for the majority of the year. We're just building another greenhouse right now in Kamloops, and that greenhouse won't go below 0 ever. It's a bit warmer there, but still gets to minus 20 Celsius. I don't know what that crosses over to in Fahrenheit, but it is possible to keep greenhouses like this above 0 all year long without the use of fossil fuels. So I really like trying to find low-tech, low-energy ways to kind of push the boundaries. And I get to trial out a whole bunch of unique thermodynamic, kind of appropriate technologies in spaces like this. So we're going to be getting this started here pretty quickly. I've got a few other little things I've got to add to it. And that brings me to point number 3, kind of coming back to that appropriate technology. We're actually going to put a full automation system into this greenhouse. So the automation system is going to manage the fan when it turns on, when it turns off. It's going to manage the windows. So we've got really, really cool windows being made for the greenhouse. And so this is essentially just a garage door panel. A company in Red Deer called Sunshine Door builds these. So we're going to hinge these. These are going to be operated windows that open and close based upon the temperature characteristics of the greenhouse. We're going to have a humidity control. So we're going to be able to inject humidity into the environment in order to bring the temperature down. So using kind of evaporative cooling, using misters. We're going to have an automatic watering system set up in here, so that'll all be managed by that. And so we're really going to do a lot. In fact, one of the other really cool kind of additions to this greenhouse, which is going to be automated, is the garage door. This is the first time I've ever put a garage door into a greenhouse, which seems like a kind of a crazy thing to do, but this has been a complete game changer for this greenhouse. Having this door open all season has ensured that we have not succumbed to one of the worst problems that these greenhouses face, which is overheating. This basically creates a massive opening which allows cool air from the north side of the building into the greenhouse and keeps the temperature cool. So we've got our east window, our west window, our lower vent bank, and our upper vent bank, plus this garage door. Now, the garage door actually has a motor on it, which when I run power out here is going to allow me to actually operate the garage door on a temperature probe. So if the greenhouse gets too warm and the subterranean heating and cooling system doesn't cool it down, the humidity doesn't cool it down, I can have the computer kind of, when it reaches a certain threshold, decide to open up the garage door. And so this thing will automatically open and close throughout the day in order to modulate the temperature. So we have a lot of different temperature modulation techniques, and all of that's going to be run by this new automation system that we're building. Okay, number 4 is the fact that in Alberta, we're lucky to get red tomatoes by the end of the season because our season is so short. And so everything in a greenhouse grows faster. The main limiting factor in our ecosystem is how cold it gets at night. So we have the cold of the winter, the cold of the spring, the cold of the fall, but we also have the cold of the evenings during our growing season. So it's not uncommon for us to go below 10 degrees Celsius at night, which is when plants stop growing. A lot of people think that plants only grow when the sun's out, but plants actually grow all day and all night if the conditions are right. However, if the temperature drops below whatever that plant's threshold is, and 10 degrees is usually a pretty good number, then the plant actually stops growing. So a lot of our gardens don't get as far as they could because of those cold nighttime temperatures. I always say you can judge the growing conditions of an ecosystem based on the number of times that you can drink a beer out on a patio without a sweater on. And in our climate, most years, we get 2 or 3 nights with a short sleeve shirt drinking a beer. Which is not good for your garden. However, in a passive solar greenhouse, because we have the ability to control the ventilation based upon temperature, we can decide when we want to close the structure in and when we want to keep it open. And that allows us to keep a really tight control on the temperatures within the space. And because of that, we end up with tomatoes really early. Now, this is a little bit late this year because we got started late. But normally we'd have red tomatoes by the end of June, which is absolutely amazing. And then we'll have red tomatoes going all the way to November. So again, with that season extension, and that all has to do with managing our nighttime temperatures and making sure we have enough ventilation to manage our daytime temperatures. On the flip side of that, and one of the big mistakes that I see a lot of people make is that they don't have that ability to manage those temperatures, because a passive solar greenhouse is kind of like a nuclear power plant. It produces or captures a lot of energy and it stores it inside of itself. And if you don't have the ability to get that energy out, you create just as many problems by overheating your plants as you do by not keeping them warm enough at night. So it's a real balance between providing it with enough light, enough ventilation, and enough insulation to keep the climate inside the greenhouse perfect for advancing plants quickly and growing that nutrient-dense food. And I think that's the 5th piece of a passive solar greenhouse, is that we really do live in a world right now where there just isn't very much nutrient-dense food. Like if you go to the grocery store, even if you're buying all the organic stuff, that food really has almost no nutrition in it. And there's plenty of articles and research on the great nutrient collapse that we're in the midst of right now. And so because I want my family to have nutrient-dense food for the entire year, and I want a big portion of that year to have plants and vegetables in it, this really gives our family the ability to grow nutrient-dense food for especially vegetables, nutrient-dense vegetables and plants for a really big part of the year. And so I see a greenhouse not as an expense, but as an opportunity to enhance our health and our well-being, both emotionally, physically, spiritually. This greenhouse brings so much into our life. I can't imagine not having it.